at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to blindster.com.
Is this the tackle?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tonight in Glendale, Arizona, the Rams and Minnesota Vikings will play the final playoff game in the NFL's Wild Card Weekend. The Rams are 2.5-point underdogs, 5 p.m. kickoff on ABC and ESPN. The winner plays at Philadelphia next Sunday. Magic Johnson's NFL team, the Washington Commanders, won their first playoff game in 20 years. The Commanders pulled out a 23-20 win at Tampa Bay. Zane Gonzalez kicked a 37-yard field goal at the buzzer to win it. The 7th time this season, the Commanders have won on the final snap of the game. The Commanders will play at Detroit on Saturday. The NBA has granted permission to the Lakers and Clippers to resume their schedule tonight. Both teams had games postponed in the past 5 days because of the wildfires. The Lakers are at home tonight against San Antonio. The Clippers are home against Miami. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. Sign up for Notify LA on your phone to get fire danger alerts and updates, or check on lafd.org. The Watch Duty app is free and provides wildfire maps and updates in real time. Keep your gas tank full and plan your route in case you have to leave the area. City and county officials are urging you to pack a go bag so you can be ready to leave your home quickly in case of an evacuation order. Your go bag should include a couple of days of clothing, copies of your important documents and ID, money, insurance information, your medications, electronic devices, batteries, chargers, a small radio, and emergency contacts. If you receive an evacuation order, gather your loved ones, grab your bag, your pet food, and leave immediately. For information on shelters for your pets or even your family, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide. Wearing a mask outside will help protect you from smoke, toxic fume, and particulate matter. If you don't need to go out, it's best to stay home with the windows closed. Getting to know your neighbors is a great way to stay safe, stay connected, and share resources. And Angelinos are stepping up to help. So reach out and find the assistance you need. Mutual Aid LA Network is constantly updating a Google Sheet with mutual aid resources. You can find it at tiny.cc-malan-fire. The earlier you make a plan, the better off you'll be when every second counts. Praying for LA, preparing, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory, 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 oh, glory, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you with us in this third and final hour of our program today. I have been looking forward to this. Then again, I'm always excited to be in conversation with the person that Coretta Scott King chose to be in charge of her husband's papers, the King Papers, Dr. Claybon Carson. Dr. Carson was just a kid when he was at the March on Washington in 1963. He, of course, had no idea then that many decades later, the widow of Dr. King would be calling upon him to be the person in charge of the King Papers Project at Stanford. He is now the MLK Jr. Centennial Professor Emeritus at Stanford, and I'm always, again, delighted to be in conversation with him. I invited him on this program today for a couple of reasons. One, because we are now at the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. I said earlier in today's program that I believe that the Montgomery bus boycott is Black America's finest moment. If you disagree, call me and give me another option. I just don't know that as a people, collectively, we have ever had a finer moment than we had in the Montgomery bus boycott. I could debate you on a few others, but that's my read of it. And you also know, of course, that I regard Dr. King as the greatest American this country has ever produced. But now here we are 70 years after the Montgomery bus boycott. Just let me just pause for a second. Can you imagine a whole bunch of black folk in any city in this country who come together and decide they're going to do something collectively, and they stick with it for a full year, and nobody breaks ranks? Whole year of not riding these buses in Montgomery. As I said, carpooling, walking, riding bicycles, whatever they had to do. But they refused for an entire year to ride those. And I invited Dr. Carson on this program today because, as we all know, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as president on the King holiday. And a whole lot of us are having all kind of stomach pains and headaches and heartaches about that reality. We'll get to that in this hour as well. I want to play, I played it earlier in the show. I want to play once again this clip of Dr. King. It's a powerful clip. And when you consider again how young Martin was in this particular moment, but just listen to him rallying these troops in Montgomery to stay off these buses.
What I'm saying to you this evening is that you can be courageous and yet nonviolent. You can take a seat on the bus and sit there because it's your right to sit there and refuse to move, no matter who tells you to move, because it's your right, and yet not hit back if you are hit yourself. Now that's what I call courage. That's real courage. And I tell you, if we hit back, we will be shamed. We will be shamed before the world. I'm serious about this. I'm not telling you something that I don't live. I'm not telling you something that I don't live. I'm aware of the fact that the Ku Klux Klan is riding in Montgomery. I'm aware of the fact that a week never passes that somebody is not telling me to get out of town or that I'm going to be killed next place I move. But I don't have any guns in my pocket. I don't have any guards on my side. But I have the God of the universe on my side. I'm serious about that. I can walk the streets of Montgomery without fear. I don't worry about a thing. They can bomb my house. They can kill my body. But they can never kill the spirit of freedom that is in my heart.
That's Dr. King at his best. I've said many times on this program and elsewhere that if you think that I Have a Dream is the greatest speech that King ever gave, depends on how you define greatest. It certainly is in the upper echelons of any oratory ever given on the planet. And yet, when you really delve into his body of work, there's so many other speeches and presentations and sermons that King gave that would just give you goosebumps if you really understood his corpus. When we come forward, I am anxious to commence this conversation with Dr. Claybon Carson about the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott and get his read of that. And, of course, get his take on the fact that Donald Trump is about to be inaugurated a few days from now on King's holiday. You are listening to Tavis, Smiley, and I'm glad about it.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
That's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I was always tired, with weekly bouts of indigestion. A friend asked me, when was the last time you did a detox? Never, I said. So she recommended Active Liver.
Our liver works hard every day to remove toxins from processed foods and unclean air and water. But too many toxins can overwhelm the liver, causing it to actually store toxins in our body fat. Low energy, brain fog, headaches, bloating, and skin irritation are all telltale signs that we need to act. Water or juice fasts can help, but often require days or weeks of feeling tired and sick. Thankfully, there's an easier way. Active Liver from New Nordic is a natural supplement that helps your liver effectively eliminate toxins on a daily basis, leaving you feeling better with more energy and less bloating.
Within a week of taking Active Liver, I was feeling better, and now I have more energy than I've had in years.
Available in both tablet or delicious gummies, you can find Active Liver online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com or in stores at your local CVS or Meijer grocery.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Here they come, y'all. Here they come. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Get out the way. Move.
First things first with Dominique DePrima at 6 a.m. Tavis Smiley at 9 a.m. Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner at 12 noon. Here they come, y'all. Here they come. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Get out the way. Get out the way. Get out the way.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at 1 p.m. The D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show at 2 p.m. A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nee Quarterly Quartet at 4 p.m. Here they come, y'all. Here they come. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Get out the way. Get out the way. Get out the way.
Tune in weekdays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the Talk of the Town. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed. Dr. Carson, Happy New Year, my friend. First time talking to you this year. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Man, I'm okay. As I say all the time, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. But these fires continue to rage here in Southern California, and we're just hoping and praying that in the days ahead, even as these winds kick up today, we will get these fires under control. I'm in Southern California, Dr. Carson in Northern California, but I'm delighted always to be connected with him, if not in person, even by phone. Yeah.
As you know, I spent a lot of my best years of my life in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's right.
Knew a lot of people who lived in that area, and just wish the best for them.
No, we appreciate that.
It's just a disaster.
No, it is indeed. We appreciate that. Let me jump right into what I wanted to have you on to talk about for the rest of this hour. No better person to have this conversation with than my friend Claybon Carson. So you heard me play some sound from Martin rallying the troops, as it were. As I said a moment ago, I'm always just taken aback about how young he was at that particular moment. I also said that, to my mind, Black America has never had a finer moment than we had coming together in unity during the Montgomery bus boycott. That's my assessment, but I'm not the guy who Coretta Scott King put in charge of the King papers. So talk to me 70 years later, Dr. Carson, about the Montgomery bus boycott.
Well, I think there's so many remarkable people whose names should be mentioned, and I think Martin Luther King would be the first to say, don't direct all the praise to me.
Mm-hmm.
He would know that Rosa Parks had to take the action at first. People like E.D. Nixon had to join in and help him organize the movement. There were so many heroic people who stuck with it for a year, and that was vital. You know, Martin Luther King could not have done it alone. I have this wonderful picture of Baird Rustin coming to town to help him out.
Mm.
There are so many people we could mention. I think it's important to point out that Coretta didn't get dragged into the movement. She was already committed,
Mm-hmm.
and that was despite the fact that she, had a baby in the house and knew the dangers. But she had been very much involved in the movement before she even met Martin. So So this is something where the praise should be spread around, and we should always recognize that, you don't have a movement that strong without giving credit to all the people involved.
Yeah. We heard in that clip Martin say, I don't have any guns in my house. I don't have any guns in my house. Indeed, he didn't. But there was a moment where Coretta had to help him get his mind right. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, he was at a speech and he saw that, heard that his a bomb had been placed at his home. He did get a gun permit, and it was something that I think Coretta helped persuade him that was not necessary. She was even more committed to nonviolence than he was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't feel it was a break with nonviolence to at least have an armed guard, especially when he has a baby in the house. But she was totally committed to the struggle, and I think that another thing about this is that it shows that organization, the Montgomery Improvement Association, was an organization that relied on almost 100% support from the black community,
mm-hmm.
and without that, they could not succeed. But I think when I think of Martin Luther King, increasingly I'm thinking of where he was at the end of his life,
mm-hmm.
because he was still a young man.
Mm-hmm.
He was still, 39 years old. He still had a lot to offer, and what we see is that's when he says, "Where do we go from here?"
Mm-hmm.
That's the phrase that still inspires me today, because he understood that the movement was, he was talking with his associates in the movement and saying we have to internationalize the movement. That was 1968 was the year the Olympic boycott was launched, and I know he would have been involved in that. So he had a lot of plans at the end of his life, and I think those of us who are past 39 years old need to think about that in terms of our own lives. What were we doing at 39?
Yeah.
And what are we doing at 49 or 59? So we need to understand that there were these dedicated people. He was one of them, and I think that still inspires us today.
Since you went there, and I'm glad I've got you for the hour. There's a lot to talk about in this hour. We'll get to Donald Trump being inaugurated on King's Holiday later in this hour. But again, since you went there, let me follow you. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I hear you when you say that these days, at this point in your life, you're thinking a lot about where King was at the end of his. And I want to juxtapose these two things and get your take on it. So we played a clip moments ago of Martin early in his advocacy when he's in Montgomery, his first pastorate, before he goes back home to Atlanta, of course, to co-pastor Ebenezer with his father. So this is early Martin in the Montgomery bus boycott. And you mentioned where he was at the end of his life at the age of 39. And we know, and I've talked about this many times, I've written about this in my own book, that had Martin made it back to Ebenezer on Sunday from Memphis, he had already told his secretary, Dora McDonald, so they could get it in the church bulletin as they did every Sunday, that he was going to preach a sermon called Why America May Go to Hell. Why America May Go to Hell. He didn't condemn America to hell, didn't consign America to hell, but that's what was on Martin's mind near the end of his life. How do you juxtapose the Martin that we see in Montgomery with the Martin we see some years later at the March on Washington with his dream speech, with a guy at the end who is about to preach a sermon called Why America May Go to Hell? Same guy. Talk to me about that expanse, if you will.
Well, I think by that time he understood that he was involved in a global struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you can see that changing over his lifetime. You know, the speech that he gives when he gets the Nobel Peace Prize, he's talking about the different aspects of this global struggle that he's involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly at the end of his life, he was calling for a poor people's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And we still haven't really had that. A lot of the people who admire Martin Luther King find it easier to identify with the early Martin Luther King, but if they happen to be alive in 1968, then the question is, where are they then?
Mm-hmm.
When he's calling for a poor people's campaign, not just involving black people, but lots of different groups in American society. When he is calling attention to the apartheid movement in South Africa, all of these aspects of his life sometimes get underrated because, he was assassinated at an early age. So we don't know what he might have been doing at 49 years old or 59 years old. What would he be doing today?
Yeah.
It's not completely impossible that he would have lived as long to be with us today. But certainly he would have been very much involved in the struggles that came, and that's the way I look at my own life, is that I was almost too late to get involved in the sit-ins, and I thought about going down to work with SNCC in 1964, but what I found is that the movement came to me.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Los Angeles, and one of the people I met for the first time it was actually before the march, but I met him again. Stokely Carmichael came to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to come to the South. He brought the message to the North, and so I look upon that. Martin Luther King came out to California, and I realized that he was calling for a national movement and ultimately a global movement, and that's something to keep in mind when we think of how, in some respects, people want to look back at that time, but I'm always looking forward.
Yeah.
That it's always what is the answer to that question? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I want to look forward. I believe in looking forward, as you know, and I want to look forward as well. But I do want to go back one more time, though.
Okay.
One final question I want to ask about the Montgomery bus boycott and the clip that we played earlier. It strikes me every time I hear that clip, hearing Martin implore and impel this audience of black people to turn the other cheek. You heard him talking about, how he defined that as real courage. And you hear this audience of black people amening and chanting and clapping and hooping and hollering in support of what Martin is saying. And I find that fascinating, that he's talking to a room full of black people about turning the other cheek. He's espousing this message of nonviolence, and it's working with that audience. What do you make of that?
It was a difficult message even at that time,
mm-hmm.
because there were people who wanted to fight back, but I think when you can offer a stronger way of fighting back, it makes much more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what he was doing in terms of the boycott. If you had tried to respond to that by using violence, the movement would have lost. because it didn't have that strength. And I think he recognized that was the way to win. And it wasn't just Martin Luther King who felt that way. It was other people who felt that we needed to build a movement around nonviolence, and because it could be effective. And now, I have my doubts about whether nonviolence always works. I don't think it always does. But I think you always need to try it before you move on to something else. And I think that that's something that is still a message. To me, the question is whether people are struggling for their freedom. And then you get to the question of how do you struggle effectively for that? And I think the main thing was that it involved people taking action using whatever tools that were available to them at that time. Yeah. And those, they didn't have the ability to win through nonviolence. And he was saying you have to recognize that and move forward nonviolently, because that's the way to win.
Yeah. Let me ask you point blank. I got 2 minutes right here. We'll continue, of course, when we come forward in these 2 minutes. Let me just ask you point blank whether or not you think I am right, and you don't have to agree, of course. I could be wrong. But I said a couple times earlier that to my mind, and I'm a student of history, but you are a historian. I'm just a student of history. Claybon Carson is a noted, legendary historian himself. Whether or not Black America, in terms of unity and solidarity, has ever had a finer moment than we had in the Montgomery bus boycott.
When you break these against each other, I believe that the sit-ins, were important. The March on Washington was important.
But this is a whole year, Dr. Carson. It's a whole year of sustained protest.
And look at the freedom rides.
Right.
There were, look at the movement in the Deep South, that led to Freedom Summer. I hate to kind of seem to playing down what he accomplished. I don't mean to do that.
No, I'll take your
I'm
point.
just saying that there was other things that were going on, and I think he recognized that by the time of the March on Washington, he was a symbol of something much larger. Yeah. One of the things about his message at the march is that he was given that role because he had succeeded in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And if not for that success, he probably would not have had the role of
the keynote speaker,
giving the final speech.
No, I get it. No,
I'm sure there were a lot of other people.
Oh, trust me. There were a lot of Negroes who wanted that role, but it went to Martin, as it should, in my judgment. But I take your point, and I'm not comparing other moments in Black history. I just am always blown away by that kind of unity and that solidarity for a solid year, and nobody breaks ranks. I can't imagine us. I love Black people, but I can't imagine us doing that now. I could be wrong. Hopefully, we won't be tested in that way. We will see what the next 4 years brings, but I digress for the moment. More with Claybon Carson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say, when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. It just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. The number of fire-related fatalities in the Los Angeles area has risen to 24, with 16 from the Eaton fire and 8 from the Palisades fire, according to the Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner. New York City Mayor Eric Adams feels vindicated after a controversial Brooklyn shelter for over 2,000 migrants closed without incident. He noted more shelters will close as fewer migrants arrive, but stressed the need to fix the U.S. immigration system. The OECD's 2024 report shows a global drop in birth rates since 1960, citing factors like increased education for women, birth control access, dual earner households, and supportive public policies. And the NFL wildcard round concludes tonight with the Rams versus Vikings moved to Arizona due to wildfires. Higher-seeded teams have won 4 or 5 games, except for Washington's last-second win over Tampa Bay. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tonight in Glendale, Arizona, the Rams and Minnesota Vikings will play the final playoff game in the NFL's Wild Card Weekend. The Rams are 2.5-point underdogs, 5 p.m. kickoff on ABC and ESPN. The winner plays at Philadelphia next Sunday. Magic Johnson's NFL team, the Washington Commanders, won their first playoff game in 20 years. The Commanders pulled out a 23-20 win at Tampa Bay. Zane Gonzalez kicked a 37-yard field goal at the buzzer to win it. The 7th time this season the Commanders have won on the final snap of the game. The Commanders will play at Detroit on Saturday. The NBA has granted permission to the Lakers and Clippers to resume their schedule tonight. Both teams had games postponed in the past 5 days because of the wildfires. The Lakers are at home tonight against San Antonio. The Clippers are home against Miami. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries, Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt Purcell and Diggs, Jasmine Canick, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires. The impacted black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe, and donate to help black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Claybon Carson, who is the MLK Jr. Centennial Professor Emeritus at Stanford, where he, for many years, was in charge of the King Papers Project, selected personally by Coretta Scott King for that august and weighty assignment. Always delighted again to be in conversation with Dr. Claybon Carson. So, as I said earlier a few times in today's show, Dr. Carson, many of us are struggling, wrestling with the irony of Donald Trump being inaugurated on Dr. King's holiday. Have you thought about it?
I haven't. You could not avoid thinking about it. It's something that. I'm disappointed, to say the least, in terms of this election.
Sure.
But, I think that it's really makes us more urgent about the answering King's question. I mean, where are we going? Mm-hmm. I think it's quite clear that Trump is leading the nation in one direction. It's not really clear who's the opposition at the moment, mm-hmm. and how that's going to work itself out. Because I think that we need to have a human rights struggle that is that sends a message that this movement is still very much alive. One thing I pointed out when we had Black Lives Matter protests mm-hmm. was that the total number of people involved in that was far larger than was involved in the civil rights movement of the 60s. Mm-hmm. So the question was not that people can't get mobilized, and that was really over the death of one person and what that symbolized. But we still have a challenge of how we're going to make the world better. And I think many young people understand that. But unfortunately, we haven't organized a strong political movement to bring about the kind of changes that he's talking about. His last book is sitting right across from me. Where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. Chaos or community? Mm-hmm. Those are two extreme examples: chaos or community. Which one are we heading toward?
Yeah, it wasn't.
And if he were alive, what would he say about this?
Mm-hmm. See, King didn't just ask that question. It's a powerful question. Where do we go from here, chaos or community? It's a powerful question. But he also spoke, as you know, oftentimes about what he called a revolution of values. And I think about that a lot, Dr. Carson, particularly in moments like these, because I would love to query him were he alive right now. If I could just get to him to ask a few questions. One of the questions I'd ask him is how he imagines that we could ever advance this notion that he raised of a revolution of values in a moment like this. You think about that sometimes? I do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that if he were around, that's what he would be trying to mobilize us for.
Yeah.
And it's not like we haven't had indications that that on a global level, we're dealing with so many problems that are global, like climate change and other things such as that. But we haven't really come to a decision about how do we deal with the issues of poverty. Has someone shown me that poverty has disappeared in the world or become less? We're still dealing with a lot of the same things that he was dealing with back then, and I'm not so sure that we're dealing with them that much more effectively. And I think that that's where it really becomes our responsibility, and I'm talking about the two of us and people who are listening to this. What are we going to do to avoid his two options, chaos or community? To me, the chaos is something that we see a lot of examples of, and we might see that under the next administration, a lot of chaos. But I think we have the choice of moving toward community. And I'm hoping that having policies coming out of the White House that we don't agree with, we're not going to be dependent on the White House anymore. It would be like during times when we don't get our choice elected as president. When we have a very conservative president, we've had that before.
Yep, not the first time.
And we don't stop organizing because of that. We try to organize more effectively.
Yeah. I'm gonna put you...
And I think that's happening with a lot of young people.
Yeah, I want to put you on the spot here since you referenced the book that's sitting across from you right now. While we conduct this conversation, where do we go from here? Chaos, Our Community. I am curious, after all these years of working on the King Papers Project as a historian, are there King writings, King speeches? I'm just asking you a personal question. Are there King speeches, are there King writings, books that you go back to that you find yourself revisiting time and time again? What's on your short list that you go to a lot?
Oh, my gosh! Of course, the last speech he gives in Memphis.
Sure.
That was an extemporaneous speech. He wasn't even thinking he was going to get there.
That's right.
He gives an off the cuff speech, which I think is one of the great speeches in human history. And because he's trying to place the movement in a broad historical context. He's saying that in all these times in the past, people have been moving toward this goal of freedom, justice, equality, and that's where he sees the movement going. At the time when he's writing this book, is that it is headed toward community in some ways, because by that time people are recognizing that these issues are global. As I mentioned, the movement in South Africa was becoming more apparent. All of these things were happening at the end of his life. He's saying, let's internationalize the movement. What would have happened if he had lived? Would we have internationalized? But when I talk with someone like Bernard Lafayette, who was one of his people in the movement, and he said that was the last conversation he had with Martin. Martin said, we have to internationalize. Well, Bernard Lafayette tried to do that, tried to take the movement outside the United States, tried to work with people in different countries. I've been to more than 30 countries. I'm not at the head of that movement, but at least I've understood that you can't really understand what's going on in the world unless you get out there and meet people in other countries and find out that in Africa they're dealing with some of the same problems. In Asia, they're dealing with some of the same problems, and we have to begin to work together on that.
Yeah. Our guest is Dr. Claybon Carson. More with him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on! Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MOTOR for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MOTOR for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MOTOR.
We gon' be alright.
KBLA Talk 1580 is amplifying Black voices and spotlighting our untold stories. I'm Dominique DePrima. Join me Thursday from 6 to 9 a.m. as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on Lincoln Avenue in Altadena, covering the individuals and families impacted by the Altadena Eaton fire. Hear from community leaders and those who have suffered losses that must not be forgotten. Together, we can help them rebuild and recover. Together, we are LA Strong, LA United, with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in conversation with Dr. Claybon Carson. We are talking in this hour, have been talking in this hour about the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. We've been talking in this hour about Donald Trump being inaugurated on the MLK holiday and how we wrap our brains around that. We've been talking in this hour about King's question, where do we go from here? And that question is as relevant as ever in this particular moment, and I'm not sure we have an answer to where we're headed. But we shall see where these next 4 years take us once Donald Trump is in fact inaugurated as the next president of these United States on the King holiday. I'm curious, Dr. Carson, given all we've talked about in this conversation and all of our other conversations over the years, whether or not in this particular American moment, 2025. King's message is as relevant now as it ought to be. I mean, put another way, It's going to be fascinating to see even how the media navigates covering whatever Trump is going to say in his inauguration speech with what this day is supposed to represent. That's going to be a tall order for the media even trying to juxtapose those two things. You disagree?
No, I don't. It'll be hard to make sense of it because, I still remember his initial inauguration speech. It was one of the worst speeches I think I've heard in my lifetime.
Yeah, it was ugly. Yeah, it was vicious.
And it was ugly. He was talking about it was not a positive view about the future. It was extremely negative, and I think that's what he'll present again is a very negative outlook about the nation. And I think in some ways it makes it more clear what we have to do. We can't rely upon who is president. We have to move in other ways and begin to develop other sources of power. And I think that by having him as president, maybe it'll free us from that dependence on whoever wins the presidency changing the world.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No, I hear you. I'm praying and hoping that Donald Trump does not do what so many on the right, so many conservatives do routinely, and that is to take MLK's words and twist them like a pretzel. You know, the one they like to quote the most, that I want my children to live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. They take that. Well, let's talk about it when we come forward. You know where I'm going. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Claybon Carson, at least for the next 4 minutes. That's what we have left in this program today, 4 minutes. So I don't know what Donald Trump is going to say on Inauguration Day, which happens to be the MLK holiday, Dr. Carson. I just hope. Let me just say this. I don't know what he's going to say, and it may be best to just leave Dr. King alone, not even go there. But I hope that he doesn't start to use King's words, as many on the right do, twisting them to advance their own agenda, or worse yet, as one of my friends suggested to me, compare himself to Dr. King in his speech. But I'm concerned about what he's going to say on that particular day. Not that I can do anything about it, but it'd be tragic again, and we'd have to we'd have to go hard the next day, and we will, if he takes anything that King says and tries to twist it to advance his own agenda, that of Project 2025. Again, if he is bold enough to compare himself to King, which again would not surprise me, it's going to be a serious moment the day after when we have to correct the record, Dr. Carson.
Well, how many people remember his first inauguration speech? Not very many.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good speech.
Yeah.
It was. So I think it'll be quickly forgotten, and we move on. We move on, and I don't think very many people who want to see the kind of changes that Martin Luther King was talking about have any faith that Trump is going to bring us any closer to that.
Yeah.
I think when you have someone else in the White House who doesn't sympathize with what you believe in, then you struggle to organize an alternative, and that's our obligation. I think in some ways it frees us from that sense of depending on somebody else to bring about the change.
Yeah.
He's not going to bring about positive change.
Nope.
We know that.
You've made that point many times in this conversation, and I receive it, that we have to do our own work and witness. We have to organize, and no time like the present to get started on that project, given that we have a pretty good sense of what's coming January 20th forward. Let me thank Dr. Claybon Carson once again for honoring me with an hour of his time to talk about Dr. King and all things related. Dr. Carson, have a great rest of the day and a great year. Hope to talk to you soon, my friend. Stay strong.
Well, talk to you next time.
Thank you for your time. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica. More than 6.4 million Southern Californians viewed our climate justice billboards and bus shelters. Another 1.5 million people listened to and or downloaded our weekly conversations with African American climate experts. Our KBLA Climate Justice web portal had 2.8 million unique visitors. Thousands more attended our 7 climate justice community events. More than 9.3 million riders saw our climate care messaging on metro buses and trains. And 39 million Americans accessed our C-SPAN Climate Justice Symposium. All told, our 2024 climate justice campaign exceeded 471 million total impressions. KBLA Talk 1580 thanks all of our 2024 climate justice partners: LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, Sierra Club, California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr., the California Wellness Foundation, MWD, AQMD, and the Port of Los Angeles. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
What is the world coming to? Seems like everyone is running from the truth. We just stand up and fight, walk into the night. We're the people, we can do it if we try. I know we can do it. Somebody asked me, why do we have to go through it? It's just a test of our faith. Oh, we're living day to day. We don't know where, we don't know when, but he's coming back again. Oh, yes, he is. It's late in the evening. Oh, God, it's time for you to return. Oh, hey. I know.
It's time, y'all. Truth time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner. So glad you are here with us today. We appreciate each and every one of you. Go run, go tell it all over. Tell it on the mountain, tell it everywhere. That truth time is happening right now on KBLA Talk, baby. 1580. Good day to you, Dr. West.
It's always a blessing. We've made it through the weekend with smiles on our faces and some joy in our soul, and that is good news.
That is absolute good news. So, Doc, we want to start off with some truth time musings. What's on your mind?
Well, you know, I think all of us in so many ways are wrestling with despair.
Yeah.
Really, it's not just the fires, it's not just the wind, but it's the storms in our lives. It's the various challenges and crises and even catastrophes with which we all have to come to terms. And we know catastrophes come in a variety of different forms. You know, it could be political, economic, it could be psychic and spiritual. And I think one of the things we want to do here on Truth Time, as we noted last week, is that we're not just reacting to events the way most shows are. No, we have a broad vision, a large framework with a bigger picture, and we are rooted in the tradition of a great Black people who have been on intimate terms with despair, with catastrophe, with crises, with calamity, and even monstrosity, from slave ships all the way to hoods and in mass incarceration sites. And so that's what's really very much on my mind today. You know, the great German poet Goethe, like the Beethoven of German literature, he said, he or she who has never despaired has never lived. And so we got to let people know that there's nothing wrong with feeling despairing. We just don't want to linger there. You have to work through it. There's nothing wrong with wrestling with despair, the way Jacob wrestles with despair in the 32nd chapter of Genesis and emerges with new name, new energy, new vision, new vitality, a God wrestler. That's really what Israel means, God wrestling. And we can use it as a critique of any nation's practices, but God wrestling. And if you don't believe in God, then you're wrestling with something that you love. And I think one of the great insights and lessons of our tradition, be it John Coltrane's Love Supreme, be it Toni Morrison's Beloved, that love is not just a gift, but a task. It's something you receive, but you got to learn how to receive. And then it's a giving, but you got to learn how to give. And then it is a accenting of a need to love and the need to be loved. Remember the title of Brother Barry Gordy's autobiography, To Be Loved. He wrote that for Jackie Wilson. That's a cold title. Oh, now Barry Gordy may not be W.B. Du Bois. We understand, but that's all right. That's all right. He's a grand figure. And he's talking about love as a need that is connected to deed? How do we do? How do we act? And then it's a seed so that it grows and sprouts in the tradition that we have been shaped and molded. And when you reach that point, my dear sister Nina, that despair that you started with in your back mirror is with you all the time, but it's not determining where you go.
Absolutely, Doc. I mean, when you said deeds, I often, how people get caught up in titles and a lot of times get caught up in political parties. And I often I often continue to say that it's not the D in Democrat, but it's the D in deeds. DEEDS. And so for anybody who's in a type of ministry, be it elected or otherwise, it has to be about our deeds. I'm just thinking about our tradition, and you had me. I mean, I feel like I'm on the first pew of the church because I'm a Baptist-costal. Baptist-costal, know that. Went to church 8 days a week. But I think about that song, "Thy love lifted me when nothing else would help." Love lifted me. Yeah, and it's not a religious thing; it's a spiritual thing, and that is what the folks in LA County need. They need that love. When Norfolk, had that train wreck and spewed all that poison to my sisters and brothers and family and friends in East Palestine, Ohio. That's what they need. Love. Whether it's dirty water in Jackson or dirty water in Flint, love lifted me. And love being manifest, especially when you have political power, it definitely comes in the form of deeds. What do you do to lift the people?
That's exactly it, my dear sister. You hit the nails on the head. And see, when you think in terms of the relation of despair and love, so that hope comes out of despair, so that joy is a fruit of love, not just pleasure, but joy at the highest level, then you are well equipped to deal with any kind of despair coming your way. And that's the history of Black people. That's the history of oppressed people everywhere. It's the history of a lot of individuals, even in well-to-do places, because it's choices people make. And those choices have to do with courage. They have to do with integrity, not purity, integrity. And on Truth Time, on our show, we're going to be coming back to this in all of its various forms, because love is one, yet many. It has a common source and a common anchor, but it's manifest in a lot of different forms.
And it's action too. A lot of times people think love is weak. Love is strong. And it's an action word.
That's
corporately and also personally, or communally, I should say. And also personally, it's a word of action and great courage, because the love is to have courage.
Well, you can't be in love and be a coward. Just like God can't use no cowards. Freedom movement can't use no cowards. Now, freedom movements have to be grounded in the love of the people, though. You see, you can't just be talking like you're a freedom fighter and hate the people that you're fighting for. Just then it ends up being just about you see. And this is part of the issues of our leadership. We'll get into that.
And as we're weaving that in, Doc, you making me think. I mean, one of my mentors, Mayor Frank G. Jackson, former mayor of the city of Cleveland, when he talked about cowards, he would always say, you can't give a man, and we can put woman there, or person, a spine who doesn't have one. That was number one. Ooh. And number two, he said, you cannot serve that which you do not love.
Ooh. Both of those are powerful.
Yeah.
Both of those are powerful. But I would say, just as a Christian, that God can actually give you a spine.
You think so?
Oh, I've known some spineless Negroes who the Lord transformed and turned into some serious forces for good. But that's what you call a miracle.
I've been transformed by the renewing of my mind.
Turn you upside.
That part. Well, speaking of renewing of minds, when we come forward, Dr. West and I will definitely look at some of the news of the day. You are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
speaking truth to power and to the powerless. This is Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
We gon' be alright.
KBLA Talk 1580 is amplifying Black voices and spotlighting our untold stories. I'm Dominique DePrima. Join me Thursday from 6 to 9 a.m. as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on Lincoln Avenue in Altadena, covering the individuals and families impacted by the Altadena Eaton fire. Hear from community leaders and those who have suffered losses that must not be forgotten. Together, we can help them rebuild and recover. Together, we are LA Strong, LA United, with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Light a candle, pour some wine. Grab a roll, the soft kind for a little me time. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear. Wavy edges for my rear. So let the softness caress your soul. Just relax, you're on a roll. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear.
Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear has the same softness you love. Now with wavy edges that tear better than the leading one-ply brand. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Are you facing an unexpected financial emergency? You need WeFixMoney.com. WeFixMoney.com could help you get up to $3,000 fast. WeFixMoney.com is free to use, available 24/7, and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Go to the name you trust, WeFixMoney.com. If you need emergency cash up to $3,000 for bills or anything else, type WeFixMoney.com directly in your browser. That's WeFixMoney.com.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
To thine own self be true. More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner coming your way right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
I have myself muted. Truth Time musings were beautiful. And if you happen to not hear it in real time, well, you can go to KBLA Talk 1580. Download our app. Do that. And then wherever you get podcasts, you can catch all of the shows, all of the previous shows by going to either Google Play, App Store, or wherever you get your apps. Wherever you get your apps, you can download and listen to our show in the podcast form. But for now, those of you who are listening live, we sending love to you. Those of you who are listening and watching on YouTube, we sending love to you as well. So, Doc, we were musing about love and the power of love, how love can lift, love can heal, and love is an action word.
Yes, yeah, indeed. It's a verb. It's a verb. It's a virtue, but it's also a verb. A verb means you're in motion, you're in movement. A virtue means it's the disposition to act and choose, and most importantly, to give of yourself. And one of the signs of an empire in deep spiritual decay, which is the United States, and in a way, you see these fires with all of this wind, it's a combination of nature, but it's also human-made crisis as well. It's a combination of both. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that our organized greed and our weaponized contempt for one another and our indifference to the poor and working class, our indifference to so many Black folk and brown folk and indigenous peoples, it takes the form of creating a society and culture where it's difficult for people to cultivate the capacity to love and be loved, you see. And if once you're in a situation where people no longer learn how to give of themselves, is what my brother Cliff West, who's a zillion times wiser than I am, right? I tell you that right now. He said, come on, the whole society is about transaction. They've given up on transformation. It's all manipulation. They've given up on fundamental transformation of self, let alone society. And once you have a culture of massive manipulation and massive transaction, then you end up with a president like Trump. Trump ain't nothing but transaction and manipulation. No doubt about that. That's just who he is. You know, he hasn't cultivated the capacity to go deeper. He just lives on the surface. And large numbers of fellow Americans look at him and say, dang, as Cliff reminds me, he's just like me. I'm living on the surface too. My whole life basically is transaction. I'm trying to get, grab. I ain't giving nothing. I ain't sacrificing too much. I'm going through some tough times, but it's all about me. That's narcissism. So you get Trump, he's just a mirror for the empire in terms of its dominant tendency. That's not every individual in the empire, but that's the sign of the spiritual decay. And that's how you get beyond just the name calling. Because see, we could talk about Trump for a million years. The brother, the dead up gangster, everybody know he's a dead up narcissist. Everybody know. We ain't going too far when you say that. We need an analysis of the culture, the system, the society that not just produced him, but allowed him to go to the top. So he mirrors the worst. And what's the worst thing about human beings? Uncultivated capacity to love. Can you imagine going from the crib to the tomb and never experiencing love? Have you really lived?
That would be a sad, miserable life indeed. And that reflection part, because a lot of folks, especially in the political space, they get off on pointing the finger at Trump.
Absolutely.
But I remember Brother Michael Jackson had a song, I'm looking at the man in the mirror.
At the man in the mirror.
Come on.
Oh, and our dear sister who wrote that song, what's her name? Oh, I forget her name, but she's a great songwriter. Set Free or something like that. But she's a great songwriter, absolutely.
And asking to make that change, you know.
Make that change. Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
That couldn't be any clearer.
If
you want to make the world a better place.
Take a look at yourself and make a change.
Ooh. And we can do that both individually, but also communally. Those two things absolutely go together. Doc, we laying it down today. That's our Truth Time musings, and we're going to do this on a regular basis as we reflect. And what we are talking about can be interwoven into any subject area.
That's exactly right.
So our audience can take it wherever they want to take it. Love. Action word. It lifts, it heals, it admonishes, though it calls out wrong as well. Love don't just accept mediocrity, and it doesn't accept injustice. Now that's another part of love that we don't talk about often. We doing that thing here.
With Duke Ellington say love is a 4-letter word for God. You see how Duke is dealing with the low, deep frequencies? A 4-letter word. And we can think of some other 4-letter words now.
Yeah.
When you get LOVE, it's like, whoo, once you've been there, that's Luther Vandross. That for God is love.
That's it. Oh, beautiful way to start off Truth Time. Now, in terms of what is happening in the news on Truth Time, we are going to look at the fact that President Biden may pardon President-elect second time around Trump. He might do that. President Trump was sentenced on Friday in a New York court. And speaking of the fires, historically Black neighborhood is being reduced to ashes right now. And we want to we want to talk about that. Aldenta, the city of Altadena is being reduced to ashes, and Altadena is a historically Black neighborhood, Dr. West. So we know that in the greater California area, LA County, a lot of misery is hurting both rich and poor, young and seasoned. It doesn't matter what identities are. When Mother Nature is raging like this is a serious moment. And we also know that if you are among the working class, when tragedies such as these strike, it hurts you, it hits you deeper because you don't have the resources necessarily to rebuild. So let's I'm sure that not a lot of people know that is a historically Black neighborhood, but some of it, that in that city or in there, that it was California's first middle class Black community. It's the first place in California where Black people could buy land in a very communal way, accumulated generations of wealth, could free oppression. Yes, oppression. A lot of Black folks migrated there. And especially those migrating to flee the Jim Crow South. Like a lot of times when people think about that, they think about places like Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, and not enough is talked about or raised when it comes to California. Like my heart aches for everybody that is suffering. We're pulling this story out just to show that there is a deeper type of suffering. We know that insurance companies are pulling out like crazy, leaving vulnerable populations even more vulnerable.
No, that's real. But see, when you have a system whose fundamental aim is just money making, then in the middle of a crisis, people still thinking about their money. The same is true in terms of different people now trying to find places to live. You see, you get the price gouging that's taking place. Brother Tavis was telling me about this. So that they're doubling and tripling the rents to take advantage of the folks whose houses have burned down. You see, that's just the wretchedness of human beings making immoral choices, not caring about others, not being concerned about others. But you're absolutely right. I mean, our heart goes out and prayers go out to all of those persons who are wrestling with this indescribable catastrophe, no matter who they are, no matter what color. But Altadena, you're right, historically has been a place where the flourishing of Black families, Black communities, Black churches, Black mosques, I mean, just flourishing of Black life, like any other life, matters. And we just want to be there with them. The beautiful thing is, as you know, Brother Tavis' show, they shifting. They're going to be in Altadena on Thursday. See, that's kind of Brother Tavis is. That's the kind of show he has. Right? He sent his sister Dominique with her wonderful self. She going to be right there in the Black community along with the other voices of the show. So that's a sign of deep solidarity. That takes a lot of work now. You got to find a place, make sure all the electricity and sales are working and so forth and so on, so your radio show can be heard in LA and around the world on podcast. But that's kind of solidarity KBLA Talk 1580 is all about, with Brother Tavis's leadership.
Yeah, and really getting the stories out of the everyday people who are being impacted by this. And some of these, I want to go back to the insurance company part, that total corruption, because not only are they pulling out in places like LA County, they've pulled out of some places in Florida. You can't get insured because of hurricanes, because of flooding, excessive flooding. They should not be able to do that. That should be against the rules. And so government is designed for us to do collectively what we cannot do as individuals. But government is also supposed to call the fouls, the strikes, the outs, the wrongs. That is a function of government as well. And there is no way from the local level to the federal level that any insurance company should be allowed to pull out when people are at their lowest point. Dr. West, back to your point about all they see is money. And so for them, they can no longer make profits off of these folks. So these people are expendable in one of the most crushing times of their lives. Now, government is going to have to fill the vacuum. However, in government filling the vacuum, they should also admonish these companies. This should not be allowed. That's just me.
That's exactly right. And that's where the moral and the spiritual dimension of the capitalist obsession with profit comes in. If you view making money as an idol, as a form of idolatry, which means that's what you worship, that's what you really love. You really love with all of your heart the money and status.
More than you love the people. That is crystal clear. When we come forward, Dr. West and I will continue this conversation. You are listening to Truth Time on KBLA Talk 1580.
The truth will set you free, but first it might raise your blood pressure.
I'm not jiving you, baby.
More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is asking residents to report price gouging after the recent wildfires. State law bans unfair price hikes on essentials during emergencies, which Governor Newsom declared last Tuesday. A poll shows former Governor Andrew Cuomo leading a hypothetical New York City mayoral race with 32% support ahead of Scott Stringer at 10% and Black Mayor Eric Adams at 6%. Adams dismissed the results, recalling Andrew Yang's past lead before losing to him. A once controversial Brooklyn migrant shelter built during New York City's 2023 migrant crisis now stands empty. Black Mayor Eric Adams toured the site as workers dismantled it, announcing more shelter closures citywide due to declining arrivals. And Haitians in Florida are marking 15 years since a deadly earthquake killed over 300,000 people. In Little Haiti, they held a moment of silence and marched to the Cultural Center. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tonight in Glendale, Arizona, the Rams and Minnesota Vikings will play the final playoff game in the NFL's Wild Card Weekend. The Rams are 2.5-point underdogs, 5 p.m. kickoff on ABC and ESPN. The winner plays at Philadelphia next Sunday. Magic Johnson's NFL team, the Washington Commanders, won their first playoff game in 20 years. The Commanders pulled out a 23-20 win at Tampa Bay. Zane Gonzalez kicked a 37-yard field goal at the buzzer to win it. The 7th time this season, the Commanders have won on the final snap of the game. The Commanders will play at Detroit on Saturday. The NBA has granted permission to the Lakers and Clippers to resume their schedule tonight. Both teams had games postponed in the past 5 days because of the wildfires. The Lakers are at home tonight against San Antonio. The Clippers are home against Miami. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries, Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt, Purcell and Diggs, Jasmine Canick, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires, the impacted Black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe, and donate to help Black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you need up to $3,000, go to WeFixMoney.com. WeFixMoney.com is the name you can trust. It's free to use, available 24/7, and you are never required to accept any loan offer. Some lenders offer same-day funding. If you need up to $3,000, type WeFixMoney.com directly into your browser. WeFixMoney.com has been helping customers for 15 years and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. So, if you need cash for credit card bills, car repairs, child care, or anything else, go to WeFixMoney.com. Make sure you type WeFixMoney.com directly in your browser. Go to the company you trust, WeFixMoney.com. Just fill in the information and get an answer in minutes at WeFixMoney.com. For up to $3,000, go to WeFixMoney.com. That's WeFixMoney.com.
Somebody's been praying for me.
Thanks to the generous support of the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation, we were able to donate 545 pounds of coats and blankets to the LA Mission this winter season.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
The LA Mission expressed its deep gratitude for our gift all over social media, but we wish to thank them and all the other service providers who look out daily for the less fortunate in our community, finding our happy by being helpful.
Hallelujah.
We're KBLA Talk 1580, where we do more than just talk.
Somebody's been praying for me. Ow!
This is where love and truth meet.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner.
We are here right now on Truth Time talking about how love wraps into every other thing that we seek to do, whether it is individual or whether it is communal. It's the stream. It goes through. You can't separate love from anything. And that is a beautiful thing, because what would the world be if we didn't have a little love? We need it. So that we were talking about the fires and what is happening there, just the whole decay, and how what is happening in LA County is really a reflection of what is happening in our nation writ large and also our world, and that the blame cannot be put on just one person. This decay has been, you call it the American Empire, has been seeping into the American Empire for decades.
That's very true. And even when you look at the history of water in California, how does it end up producing a system in which a small number of people, a few billionaires even, can have a disproportionate amount of influence and control over the flow of the water for private gain and interest rather than public interest? Now, that doesn't mean it's going to prevent, major crises, but at least when the crises come, you have a system in place so that the water is available, so that the water is accessible, And so that everybody, beginning with the least of these, can be protected. You know, you got some billionaires who protected their own little private space, and other people's stuff went under because they had their own private firefighters, and somehow they had access to the water. Well, again, it rips the veil over a corrupt system in which people are so obsessed and preoccupied with money making for private gain rather than creating systems in which goods and services are available to the many. Now, that's a historic problem. That's not just the United States. That's true around the world. It's been true, of course, in the history of the species. But we have to be voices in the wilderness. And as the great Sandy Ray, pastor in Brooklyn here, used to say, oh, the wilderness is crying out for the voices. It's got to go both ways. You can cry out all you want, but if you're on barren soil, then the wilderness is not even ready for the voices. They look at the voices and cut their necks off or demonize them or put them down. And if, in fact, the voices that are heard are the voices of greed, contempt, indifference toward the poor, that's Trump, then what kind of society are we living in? That's sick. What kind of system are we dealing with? Corrupt. And again, it's not name calling and finger pointing. We're talking about structures and institutions that produce certain kinds of persons who are able to find themselves gaining access to high places with much power.
And it doesn't have to be this way. I mean, what is today doesn't mean it has to be that way tomorrow. And that's why in the elected space, or every space, but spaces of leadership where people have a certain level of power, we do need people in those spaces and in those places who really do care about that which they serve. And we're not seeing that right now. And in this presidency, I mean, who knows? I mean, God, you talk about miracles, Doc. God can work a miracle. I'm looking, the other song come to mind, I'm looking for a miracle. I expect the impossible. Hey, we're going to put some of that. Ain't nothing too hard. Nothing too hard
For the God we serve, the Lord. If Donald Trump turns out to be Martin Luther King Jr.'s vanilla second cousin, we say, ooh, that's miracle capital M ended with capital E. We're not holding our breath for that. That's why we're organizing against them. But we're not just resisting in a narrow way. We're resisting based on a deep sense, as we've said, of remembrance of our tradition, the best of our tradition, and of reverence for something bigger than our own individual egos.
That's it, the best of. So for those who want to help the residents, businesses, the global community of LA County, certainly here on KBLA Talk 1580, during our breaks, you're hearing all the ways that you can help. There's something that has to be done politically by government, but there are also things that we as individuals can do. So please give a helping hand to our sisters and brothers and family and friends, because but by the grace of God, there go us in Ohio, New York. It doesn't matter where you are, Alabama, where you are in this country and even in the world, that could be us. Doc, we want to move now to President Donald J. Trump was sentenced on Friday. This was the New York, because he got so many cases percolating. I mean, he got more cases than any president in history. He always talking about how he's making history. On that one, he made a whole lot of history. But the case in New York about the hush money, there was a sentencing for him. And, the judge just basically said you're free to go. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but there will be no jail time for the president-elect. He doesn't have to pay a fine, no community service. The judge just closed the case. He is a convicted, felon, but he doesn't have to pay any consequences for this hush money case. It is blatantly unfair because there are a lot of folks who are ex-offenders, because we got to be careful with that. In our community, this is a big deal. Ex-offenders who've had to pay a higher price for less than what this person has had to pay. And we know it is linked to his positioning. And so maybe justice is not as blind as they want us to believe she is. Doctor, she peeking out of that. She can see.
Oh, she could definitely see. I've always thought that if Brother Trump was a black man, he would have been in prison a long time ago. Just like if Biden was a black man, he'd probably be head of a car salesman place. Very, very slick with a smile and very kind, but unable to ascend to high places. So you can see all you got to do is flip the script. Where would they be if they were Jamal and Roosevelt? And I don't say that out of hatred at all. I'm just saying that out of a sense of facts in the history of America, given the ways in which there's been differential opportunities for black folk vis-a-vis white folk. All of them human beings, all of them can make choices that are different. But we have to be very, very candid in terms of what it means to have a president now who is not just a convicted felon. Because, I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, most U.S. presidents are war criminals. When you look at their foreign policy, dropping bombs on innocent people, 3 million people gone. We talked about Vietnam, 1 million gone in Iraq. We haven't got Iran's coup that took place in the early 50s, Latin America, over 175 interventions with innocent folk killed. Those are crimes against humanity that were sponsored by presidents. Now, some of them not even sponsored by Congress because Congress wasn't even in on it.
And the first dozen, Dr. West, just to add, the first dozen or so, give or take, were slave owners. So then there's that.
Other than John Adams and his son, you had slave holders who were president. Now, if slavery against anybody, let alone black people, is not a crime against humanity, there's no such thing as a crime. So we got to keep this in context, see, so that given that history of presidents and even U.S. government, as you know, you got some decent folk who make it through. They just don't have a whole lot of power and authority. They're fighting, and we support them. And this is true in our own respective professions too. Professors, ministers, and so forth. Whole host of folk accommodated the empire, folk fighting against it.
Well, when you benefit from it, you accommodate. And some people did it on purpose and some people by accident. But as one of my mentors used to say, it doesn't matter whether you meant to kill me on purpose or by accident. Dead is dead. When we come forward, we are going to continue this conversation. You are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Ignited Light program invites one and all to the 8th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, January 18th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. The spirit of Dr. King's legacy of service continues as local organizations come together. A drive-through food giveaway, free medical services, the Department of Children's Services offering employment opportunities. Foster and emancipated females aged 18 to 26 can take part in a very special She Ready luggage giveaway on Saturday, January 18th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw Plaza. More info, visit adayon.org. Again, adayon.org. Drivers, please enter from the Marlton Ave entrance.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking.
I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code TOOL for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code TOOL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TOOL.
Truth crushed to earth shall rise again. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, truth crushed to the earth shall indeed rise again. I want to correct something that I said earlier in terms of some of the rundown that Dr. West are talking about in today's hot news about President Biden. The pardons may come for the Trump critics. I forgot to say the word critics, and not President Biden seeking to pardon President Donald J. Trump. You couldn't either. You only could be pardoned for federal stuff and not necessarily what you do in the states. And speaking of states, in New York with the hush money case, Doc, so the judge pretty much said, off with you. Nothing to see here, nothing we can do here. Some people may be wondering, well, does the president-elect get to keep his ability to vote? Because we know that is a problem throughout the United States for former offenders, ex-felons. And I'm saying it this way, because I want to separate what President-elect Donald J. Trump has been accused of and all the cases that are pending, which nothing is probably ever going to happen to this man because he won the presidency. Extrapolate that out from the crisis of incarceration and a system that definitely sees Black people and then brown people and poor people differently than it sees white people and folks who are more affluent across the board. This is a problem in the United States, and it really did. So he will not lose his right to vote. He votes from Florida, and Florida law is basically if you served your time or fulfilled your obligations, you can indeed have the right to vote. So he won't lose his right to vote. We have that in certain states where ex-offenders or returning citizens lose their right to vote, and they have to do something to regain it. And it has been my contention, Dr. West, when I saw Democrats try to use this as a strategy. You may remember this. They tried to use Trump's transgressions as a strategy. In other words, Harris is a prosecutor, so she's going to prosecute the case against Donald J. Trump. And that always cut me the wrong way. And it's because of this. Because for generations, Black activists in particular, not only, but in particular, have been fighting against a system that does not allow for folks to be redeemed, and how that falls on Black people, especially Black men. And so with the Democrats using that as one of their talking points, I admonished them publicly saying, wait a minute, slow this down. Now, if you want to talk about President Donald J. Trump and his transgressions, then you need to lay that out and lay it out straight. But if you're going to use this as a rallying cry, a talking point, a campaign slogan that you're going to do across the board, you're hurting the very people who are not treated fairly in this system. And Donald J. Trump, whether he ran for president again or not, was going to be all right. But folks in the Black community were not going to be all right. And then poor people across the board. I just thought that was a shady way. And they tried to do it on the backs of Black. They tried to be cute by half. It was a little too cute because we want redemption. We want people who have served their time to be able to come back out into their communities and be redeemed and do good work and not have that held over their head. And so the victims of that prosecution of the case, so to speak, was going to fall on Black people the hardest, Dr. West.
Oh, no, that's real. And I saw you going at it. Shoot, we were in, Denver together. We were in so many different places together. You were laying that out with tremendous eloquence. It took a lot of courage on your part to go against some of those corporate Democrats in the way that you did. But so many of those Democrats, they're so far removed from any experience of incarceration. Any of us who've been struggling for freedom for many years have been to jail. And all of our heroes have been to jail, from Martin and Malcolm to Fannie Lou to Stokely Carmichael, and go on and on and on. It's hard to bear witness to love and truth in a corrupt system and sick society without being incarcerated, let alone assassinated. But on the other hand, you know, you got folk who are fairly persecuted and punished in the name of the law. I think Trump got a fair trial, actually. I think they made a fair judgment. He was just able to get out of it. That's all. But that's not always the case. You know, the juries don't always make fair judgments.
That is not always the case. We will continue to litigate this case when we come forward. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight